This is the Canon T5i. It came out in early 2013, and since August of 2016, it has been my main camera for filmmaking, videography, and YouTube. So today I'm going to share my thoughts on it and what I think after using it for 3 years. Sound good? Cool. Let's do it. I purchased this camera with the 18 to 55mm kit lens and some accessories for about $600, and since then I've used it for a wide range of projects. I shot a wedding, did some promotional stuff, done a couple of short films with it, and even this very YouTube channel. Needless to say, I've had some experience with this camera and the time to discover its strengths and weaknesses. The T5i boasts an 18 megapixel APS-C sensor which takes really nice pictures and videos. It's also got a 3-inch flip-out LCD monitor, which is very handy, especially when shooting video. On the side, you've got a plug for a remote clicker and a 3.5mm audio connector. To the right, you've got an AV out and a mini HDMI out, which you can use to connect to external monitors. In terms of shooting features, it's all pretty standard here. You've got your automatic shooting mode, manual mode, several scene-specific shooting modes that I've honestly never touched, and of course, video mode, which I'm in 90% of the time. In video mode, you can shoot at 24 and 30 frames per second in 1080p, 60 FPS in 720p, and 30 FPS at 480p. It's also got continuous autofocus, which is good if you vlog or do a lot of stuff in front of the camera. So now that you know some of the T5i's features, let's talk about some of the things that make this camera great and some of the things that don't. Let's start with the good stuff. First off, this camera is built really well. The whole camera is very solid, and I should know since I've dropped it several times. So if durability is a concern of yours, then fear not, because as long as you treat this camera right, it should last a very long time. Second off, the image quality is great. If you watched my channel at all, then you have seen the T5i hard at work. I would say that 90% of the footage on my channel is shot with the T5i, except of course for today's video, which is being shot on my T2i, that I did a whole video on right here. The footage from this camera is very nice, and if you put a good lens on this bad boy, the quality can increase exponentially. This camera is compatible with Canon EF and EFS lenses, which can open up a world of possibilities for the types of shots that you can get. The third thing that makes this camera great is that you can find it for relatively cheap, with prices going as low as $280. So if buying used is something you want to do, this camera is well worth looking into. Personally, I would only recommend buying used because the prices of new units are on par with some higher-end DSLR cameras. Okay, so while there are a lot of things that make the T5i great, let's move on to some of the things that aren't so great about it. First off, this camera has a pretty low dynamic range, and what that means is it can't handle very bright and very dark sections well at the same time. So if you try to expose your shot for the dark parts, your highlights will become blown out. And in the opposite case, if you try to expose for your highlights, the dark parts become super dark. Next is the camera's low light ability. The T5i often does struggle in situations where light is limited. I find that going anywhere over 800 ISO introduces way too much noise into the image. Of course, this can also be seen as an advantage because this forces you to think more about the lighting, and thus might actually end up benefiting your shot more than if you were to just crank the ISO. This camera really does benefit from having a fast lens, that being one that has a lower aperture and can in turn bring more light into your shot. The T5i also isn't going to be the best way to capture slow motion. It is capable of capturing 60 FPS video, but only in 720p, which means you'll either have to scale up the footage and lose some quality, or downscale any higher resolution footage you might have. Now let me just say that in no way am I trying to bash the T5i or say that it's not a good camera. I'm just sharing some of the things I've learned after using this camera for 3 years. With any camera you're going to find its issues, but I feel like it's always good to know both the good and bad before you make a purchase like this. Okay, so now that we've gone over some of the pros as well as the cons about this camera, how about a quick montage to bring it all together? Sound good? So overall, the Canon T5i is a great camera for making videos and definitely worth buying if you're in the market to do so. It's got everything you need to make your videos look great, and all that's left for you to do is take the tools that you have, get out there, and make something great.